Hello everybody, it's Friday, so it's time for me to do a Friday reads, and I read quite a lot this week, so yeah, let's just get into it. The first book that I finished was Kim Ji-young, born 1982, by Cho Nam Joo, I think. Sorry if I butcher the names. This book was very interesting. It's a very slim volume, and it's about this woman in South Korea that apparently it starts acting strange. So she's taken to the doctor, and she tells her life story to the doctor. But what was interesting to me was that it was written as a non-fiction almost about the situation of women in South Korea and how they are treated in terms of especially in if they want to join the workforce, and why they don't often join, why they often have to drop out, and the expectations of the family of having children and so on. And it had even like references and notes to different articles and percentages of women that drop out after the first baby and so on. And it was just using the life of this character to tell these different things that happen at different times in history, and how differently they are treated, and how still there is a lot to improve. So I thought it was a really, really interesting way to tell, well, like a non-fiction story basically. So yeah, that was very interesting for me, and I really enjoyed it. The second book that I finished was All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr, and I think this won the Pulitzer Prize, and everybody seems to really like it. Personally, it just felt like something I read before. Like it follows a girl in France during Second World War, and it also follows a German orphan boy in the years before, like, so when the Nazis rose in Germany. There's nothing wrong with the book, but it just somehow I didn't connect to it. Maybe I'm not the right audience, but it just didn't make anything special for me, and yeah, but a lot of people like it, so who knows. The next book that I read, I had more strong feelings about, and it was the Sympathizer by Viet Thanh Nguyen. Probably I butchered that, I'm sorry. But yeah, this one also won the Pulitzer Prize. I didn't do that intentionally, but it just happened to be the books that were available in my library through ebook. So yeah, that the Sympathizer had some. It was a very mixed bag for me. It had some really good things and some really strange things. The things that were good, it had a very interesting talk into the immigrant experience from Vietnam to America. It also talked a lot about the Vietnam War and why it happened, and it did make if it made sense or not, and the horrible things that happened then, and that I found really interesting. But then it was also a very masculine book in a sense. It had a very masculine feeling to it, and there were just some very graphic sexual scenes that I just did not know why they were there. There were to put an example, there was this specific time in which he was explaining about his bringing up and his mom, and he relates about he talks about when he had raped basically a squib that his mom was going to cook, and yeah, I don't know why that needed to be there, and there were several of these things. But I'm sorry, I didn't say what it was about. It was about a Vietnamese man that is taken to the US because apparently it helped he helped the US during the war, and then he wants to go back, but he's into this military life, and he's asked to do different things that he doesn't want to. Basically, that's the general plot. But yeah, in general, it's a good plot. But yeah, there were these moments in which I did not know what they were trying to make with that. Maybe they were just trying to be shocking for the sake of being shocking. I don't know. But anyway, and then I read Serotonin by Michel Houellebecq. This was longlisted for the International Booker Prize. It's not in the shortlist anymore, and I'm glad it's not. This book follows basically a man that treated his girlfriend horribly, and so she left, and now he's depressed, and he's taking medication, so the medication is making him impotent, like he's not able to have sex with other women, so he's very sad that he cannot treat horribly other women as well, and it's just so misogynistic and so unnecessary. I did not get the point of this book. I don't know why it was longlisted, and I just don't understand. If any of you have read it and liked it, let me know why, because I just didn't like it at all. I finished yesterday a book that finally it's a hard copy. It's Boats on Land by Janice Pariat, and this book, so the thing is, I normally read from the library, and that's where I get all my physical books from, and yeah, I prefer reading that way, especially now that it's sunny and I can read outside with the sun. I don't like to read ebooks in the sun, but because all the libraries are closed, I have about 5-6 books, physical books that my boyfriend got on a second-hand shop, like just before everything closed, and I'm just making my way through them. So they are not books that I picked, and they are books from the second-hand store. So these are a bit, I don't expect the best things from them, but I'm reading them because I want to read in the sun, and I don't have any other physical book to read. So yeah, with all that long preface, this is a collection of short stories by Indian writer. Janice Pariat it's from India, I believe, and yeah, it's from India. They're basically everyday stories of different Indian situations, and I have to say I don't particularly like short stories. It takes me a while to connect with books usually, and it's very difficult for a short story to do that for me, and so I tend to not like short stories, and these ones didn't work for me. It doesn't mean that they are bad or they would not work for anybody else. It's just they were fine for me, but they didn't do anything special. And the last book I finished, I actually finished this morning with my breakfast, and that was I Am by Maggie O'Farrell. And this is often described as her 17 brushes with death. So 17 different times in which she could have died and she didn't. And with that description, I was not overly eager to read it, but I have heard good things and it was available in my library, so I thought, well, let's just read it. I have a lot of time these days and it's not a big book, so I read it, and I actually surprised me because it was much more deep than what I thought it was going to be. It was basically what they said, but it was much more than that. there was one story about a man who was harassing her, and how he later was discovered to be raping and killing women. And there was a story about how what's the death rate in during birth, and how much more it is than we think it is. There's discussions about motherhood, there's discussions about lots of different things that I was not expecting. So I was very gladly surprised by this book, and I think it is worth, even if at first sight you just think, oh, she's gonna write about how she was almost killed in a car accident, and that's it. So yeah, that was surprising and nice. So as I said, I finished that book this morning, and I normally read one book at a time. Well, at this time, two, because I always try to have a physical copy. But but there is one book that I'm currently reading, and that's Les Miserables by Victor Hugo, and I'm doing that in audiobook. Normally I have an audiobook in the go. I used to, before all this craziness, I used to go for walks every day, for long walks. Now I cannot do that, but I still have things to do around the house and cleaning and in the garden and so on. So I tend to listen to an audiobook when I'm doing that, and what I'm listening currently is Les Miserables, and I'm really liking it. So far it has very good discussions about class. So yeah, I will report on that probably for a long while. It's gonna take me a long while to go through that, but so far I'm liking it. And then things that I might be picking up next week. Well, I haven't started with my Booktube Prize books yet, so I probably will do that this weekend. But I also have other things that I want to read this week, and if I'm lucky and it's as successful as this one, maybe I will be able to go through all of these things. So one thing that I really want to read next is The Lost Flowers of Alice Hart by Holly Ringland, I think. And this is I don't really know much about this book, but I have heard lots of good reviews from it, and it's Australian and it's Aussie April, so I thought it would be a great time to pick it up. So that's at the top of my list. And then other things that I might be able to get to are The Narrow Road to the Deep North, which seems like a more quiet book that I would be interested in reading. And there is also one book that I'm not sure if it's available in English, but it's called Siempre, hablado por nosotras, and it's a book about the experience of a Muslim woman in Spain, and how that went. And I heard from Bookish Islander that it's a good book, and it's also a very short book, so yeah, I might be reading that. I will put some links or something if I find it's translated in English, but if it's not, well, I'm sorry. And we'll see how it goes. I'll be reporting back next Friday to see what I read and what I am excited again to read. I hope you have a good time. Leave a comment what you're actually reading now, and if you have read any of these books and have ideas. That was all for me. I hope you're all safe and well, and see you soon. Bye.